Altcoins. Днес нямаме дълга презентация, но пък бих казал, че имаме едно доста важно изявление. Вече официално имаме открити сметки в една от най-големите български банки. Това е специален продукт, създаден за нас, който не е достъпен за никой друг в България. Няма как да кажа повече за самото партньорство, тъй като е защитено с договор за конфиденциалност, но може да знаете, че сметките ни в лева и евро са отворени и са на разположение за нашите клиенти. Надявам се следващия път да мога да ви разкажа повече, а до тогава купувайте, продавайте крипто и ви благодарим, че използвате платформата на Altcoins. До следващия път.
Благодаря. Да, имаше някаква новина, която излезе от вас. Аз си спомням, но няма да коментирам по нея. Така направо давам думата вече на Кристоф, който ще се фокусира върху блокчейн технологиите и защо те са важни и защо децентрализацията е важна, но неща, които според мен много често, когато много от участниците в крипто не се фокусират толкова много върху технологията, а върху цената. Затова е хубаво, когато има такива периоди, в които цената не е много волатилна, сравнително стабилен период, малко да си говорим и за технологии. Това давам думата на Кристоф, който ще бъде нашия лектор днес. Аплодисменти.
Right. So first, yeah, I don't need that. I'm gonna do that. So first, apologies. My Bulgarian is a bit rusty, so I'm gonna do it in English if you don't mind. I also will make sure it won't be too long because no one wants to listen to too many presentations anyway. I want to start with a question. So I heard it's the 91st meetup here. So who is here for the first time? So I have to be very honest. I've never been to a meetup anywhere. So I'm not really sure how the format is, but I will I will try my best. So I'm not going to shield too much. A little bit about us. So our company was founded in 2016 from a friend of mine with whom I worked in a bank. So I used to work in a bank for around 100 years until this friend of mine came to me 2020 and said our first fund was very successful. Now you have to join me to build up the company. So back then in 2020, there were just the two of us. Now we have, I think, 6 people here in Sofia, and overall we're like almost 18 people. I was actually, one of the reasons why I left the bank was that I didn't want to manage people anymore. Unfortunately, that didn't work out that well. So we are running around 100 million in venture capital money now, altogether in 3 different funds. So what we're doing is basically we're trying to find projects and invest with them and help them to grow and be successful. That's basically all we do. Yeah, you can read that overall. So that's, I don't want to go too much into details. So basically we launched a new fund actually last week, I think was the official launch date. Just to give you a perspective, we started doing due diligence for this fund, I don't know, I think in November or so, yeah. So where we look into projects. So we did, I think, 5 investments so far. What do you think, at how many projects did we look for these 5 investments? Any guess? 50? 5? We invested in all 5 we found. So if you send us a pitch deck, we invest. We looked at 120 projects since November to do 5 investments. So just to give you a perspective, it's not very easy to get through to the process. We have a very diligent process. We look very much under the hood. We first look into if the business model is viable. If the business model is viable, then we look into the tech and do a very thorough tech due diligence as well. So that's just to give you a perspective. So it's a lot of work and a lot of frustration. I just heard from our head of research yesterday that we rejected one project, and he got so angry that this project, he said, yeah, you're the worst venture capital firm out there anyway. So it's also not very easy to communicate those rejections as well. Okay, so why Polkadot? The nerds love it. I don't know if you heard the slogan. It's Polkadot sponsored esports team called Heroic, and they coined the slogan, the nerds love it, because no one understands what Polkadot is really doing. Who have heard of Polkadot here before? Okay, well, quite a few. I'm very proud, because last week I was in Warsaw. There were very few hands raised. Just to give you a little bit of a background, Polkadot was invented, if you want to say so, by a person called Gavin Wood. Gavin Wood was a chief CTO, chief technical officer of Ethereum. He basically read the white paper from Vitalik Buterin from Ethereum, and then he contacted Vitalik and said, I want to work with you. And then he programmed more or less Ethereum, but said at the beginning that is more a test net than anything else and has its limitations. There's a very good podcast it's called When Shift Happens, where he speaks 2.5 hours, and the podcast asks Gavin, what's the biggest achievement of Ethereum? And he said, to make so many millionaires out of it, yeah. So that was the biggest achievement of Ethereum, that so many people made so much money out of it. Nevertheless, he left because he saw its limitation and said, okay, it needs, a blockchain needs to be upgradable, it needs to change and adapt to new environments, and that's why he found Polkadot. So when our founder, Mark, got to know Gavin, he invested very early on, and Gavin became an advisor and an investor with us. The second fund we launched was a cross-blockchain fund, and this fund, which we launched now last week, was a Polkadot only fund, so we can only invest in projects which are built on Polkadot or help the ecosystem grow. And we're actually quite proud that we were so far the only one chosen. There will be more to manage the money, because it's very important to get liquidity into the market. Because if it's not your first meetup, you probably know how the market behaves at the moment. It's very hard to get money into the ecosystem. So I don't want to go into too much detail on that. Also, yeah, it's very safe, it's very secure. I'm definitely not going to go into the energy efficiency. I personally always refuse to talk about that. But what is very important is one of our biggest investments is a project called Mythical Games. And Mythical Games, I think I'm going to swap here. Mythical Games is a huge gaming studio which has one marquee game called NFL Rivals. And NFL Rivals has 7 million downloads in the App Store. It simulates what do you call it, football, American football, where you can play and trade with each other. Yeah, and 7 million users is, if you look at at a lot of other projects, a shit ton. It's really a lot. So you need to have a blockchain which is able to handle the transactions. And they also, NFL, so they have to pay license fees and everything. It's very expensive to run the company. And for them, money was, of course, super important. They were approached by a lot of blockchains to move to their blockchain, but they said even if they get so much money, they can't move anywhere else because no one else can handle the amount of transactions. And this is why we are big believers in Polkadot, because we think that when we are, beyond the meme coin cycle, which we're kind of at the end, I don't know. I mean, I think Trump managed to really fuck up the whole market by launching his own coin. It's recorded. You have to cut that out there. But I think it really kind of the people will see beyond the casino mentality, which crypto definitely is, yeah, for real use cases. And I think that's why we're big believers in that, yeah. And just to give you a little bit of perspective, so they announced FIFA Rivals, so they are the only company which are licensed by FIFA to launch a mobile game on blockchain. The last mobile game from FIFA had 500 million downloads, yeah. So it's probably it's not gonna go to 500 million, but they expect to 10 to 50 million, maybe more. World Cup in 2026 will be hosted in the US, Mexico, and Canada. Maybe Canada is part of the US by then already, but nevertheless, it will be hosted there. So it could be really gigantic. So that this is also the reason why they said, okay, we need a blockchain which has all the features which Polkadot can offer. That's why they moved there. Yeah, so it's by the number one in NFT sales. It's what is very important to say is like my son is a semi-professional gamer, and he played what is called this COD, Call of Duty, and he had this knife which he bought for $300. Yeah, so that's how he spends my money. And the knife went up in value, and he wanted to sell it for 800, and he got scammed out of it. Yeah, so for a 70-year-old, this was quite a devastating experience. Yeah, because it was really well done. They said, okay, if you don't have it recognized, you need to send it over, then it gets recognized, and then you can sell it. Of course, the guy was not from administration, but was a scammer and took the knife. Yeah, and this is the thing is why blockchain will change the way video gaming is doing, and where this could never happen because it's an instant transaction with the item and you can and the money. Yeah, so I think that's the key for it. Yeah. So my favorite topic: open government and decentralization. Who has anyone here already looked into open government of Polkadot? No one. Yeah, but from our team who suffered through it. Yeah. So basically, open government of Polkadot is a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, which is currently, I think, $200 million, which gets filled by through the inflation of Polkadot. Yeah. And what does it mean? So if you have an event like this and say, okay, instead of drinks, we bring in dancers, DJ, and Fiki is going to sing afterwards. This probably costs a little bit more. I write a proposal on open government, say, I want to do an event here. It costs 25. I don't know how expensive Fiki is, probably more than 10K. I don't know. But anyway, say, okay, the whole event costs 25,000. And you say, and Fiki will wear a Polkadot shirt and sing the open government song, yeah? So you go there and say, I want 25,000 and it will bring Polkadot this and that visibility. Then you say, you go in, you write the proposal, put in your wallet address, and then each Polkadot has one vote. And then it gets voted. You have 28 days. During that period, it gets voted. And if it's accepted, you get a 25K. And even if you don't do the event, you still have the 25K, yeah? So I don't want to, give any bad ideas, but the whole thing is unbelievable. Yeah, we our company had a so-called decentralized voices, meaning that we got delegated 6 million votes to vote on behalf of others. Yeah, so we had to go. That they currently have 1,500 proposals have been in open government. 1,500. Yeah. And then you have to go through every proposal and say, I vote yes, I vote no. And if it gets through, then you get the money. And the interesting thing is, it's extremely chaotic, but it's like, we think it's the future how entities will be run. Because it's very democratic. If you have one dot, you can vote. And you can say, I do an event. You can say, I don't know if we have that. Here, do we have more? Yeah. So Polkadot sponsored Inter Miami, where Messi plays, yeah? But not on the shirts, only on the training shirts. How much do you think that cost? 5 million? No, 100 million. Manchester United, the training shirt cost 75 million, just to give you an indicator. No, not the training shirt, the real shirt is 75 million, yeah. 8.5 million for this. It was voted on open government that Polkadot spends 8.5 million to get on the training shirt of Inter Miami. And then if Messi posts something on Instagram, it's already said here, yeah, I don't know. It gets like 500,000 views or whatever. Is that helpful? I have no idea. So no one can measure, but it was fascinating to see that an organization, because people always, so I was at the conference in Paris, and then the guy from Manchester City, because everyone of all the sports club know the deal. Everyone knows, yeah? And everyone said, with whom can I talk? We also want to have the money, yeah? I said, there's no one to talk to. You write a proposal, and then hopefully you get voted or you don't. And that's it. So if you have the lobby, you know, okay, if you know dot holders say, look, this is such a great idea, let's do that. And it's permanently filled. You know, dot is now at, I don't know, $4.50 or so. Used to be at 55 or 60. So can you imagine, instead of 200 million, you all of a sudden have 2 billion in the DAO. 2 billion. Then you can do Manchester United. You shouldn't, but you could. But that's just to give you an indication what that means, yeah? So it's really, let's hear, this is the guy from, so they did, I don't know how much that was, the e-gaming was, I think, $1 million or so. So they sponsored a fucking e-gaming team for $1 million. The car is not here, yeah, and then a race car for 2.5 million, yeah. But it's basically, you can, everyone here who has, I think you need a little bit more than one dot. I think you need like 1,000 or 2.5. I don't know how much you really need. Everyone can participate and everyone can vote all the time. I think that's the future, and it also shows you it's really decentralized. There's no one who can say, oh, I don't want to have Inter Miami. I want to have, I don't know, the club in Sofia. I don't know how much you get for 8.5 million for the club here. But so everyone can do it. And I think that's the really interesting part. It's not like 3 guys deciding what to do. It's every dot holder can decide, yeah. The more you have, the more voting power you have. That's the interesting part. And with that, I already want to finish, and if there's any questions.
Saw some pretty nice slides here that we didn't focus too much on, like the ecosystem, but the bandwidth looked good. So, like, I've been in crypto for quite some time, and you know, Polkadot also has been around for a long time. Actually, I have a funny story. Maybe I'll tell you the story in a bit related to Gavin Wood. But all the blockchains, they claim that they have the ultimate like bandwidth. And we now see that obviously Solana is also doing the same thing, and it's kind of winning. You know, the meme coin mania, which maybe wasn't super healthy for the industry, was on Solana, and it kind of proved, and actually Trump's meme coin, when it got launched, it kind of proved that Solana can handle like a serious bandwidth. Basically, as far as comments went, I heard people saying that there was like nowhere else where Trump could have launched this because nothing else would have been able to, to support such high interest. So, is there any application on Polkadot or something that people can look at and say, okay, so this thing is generating a lot of transactions, and it's proving that Polkadot is. Yeah, you mentioned the game, but is it live? Is there something live that we can?
Yeah, so the game is live, and you can imagine how nervous Mythical Games is. They tested it, and it was a real test, was a real transaction. But of course, they expect 100 times more transaction when FIFA launches, and they will launch in June, July, and then it basically, I think it will be a game changer to see how many transactions really can be handled there.
And okay, and that's very interesting because I know the Polkadot model is kind of has these like side chains connected to the main chain, and so will that game have its own chain in the Polkadot ecosystem? That's the
Yeah. We'll have the Mythos chains. And the interesting thing is that other games will start building on their chain. Mm-hmm. And we have already an investment, which is the first one, which will build on their chain, on the Mythos chain. Mm-hmm. So that will be a test and they actually did a lot of research themselves. It's a very, it's also game with a lot of transactions. It will hopefully be live this year. I don't know the exact date, but they also looked at who can handle this amount of transaction. Mm-hmm. But just to give another example, so one of the chains which will be launching is Frequency. Frequency is a social platform which has the most transaction at the moment on Polkadot. And they are bidding currently for TikTok USA, and they're also building Blue Sky, which is like the Twitter for the poor, there. And also there are a lot of negotiations, and there was a lot of back and forth, Polkadot yes or no, but the tech team insisted to build on Polkadot because no one else could handle that transaction. They will announce a few other things in the next few months with other social platforms going on there, and this will be huge. So you can really see it there.
So I guess the Polkadot is like the ecosystem will be focused on gaming and social media applications.
I think it will be the focus will be on institutional adoption. Yeah, I mean, look, they spoke to governments to put healthcare data on chain. Yeah, it's what Polkadot won't be is a meme coin chain. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. So, but I think the test will be if the amount of transaction really works, then basically the proof is in the pudding. Then other people will say, well, I can't risk that the chain breaks or that it can't handle that amount of transaction and that it's not real decentralized. And I think that will hopefully start the run then.
That is, very interesting point. And about decentralization, what can we say about Polkadot? Because I'm not very familiar with the tech. I know that there is like a core, and then at one point you were able to vote with your dots in order for side chains to be created and then funded. or in other words, like protected with that amount of money that voted for them or something like that. But then they changed the model to something else. So, like in terms of this decentralization, is there like a slide that we can, or some information that you can share when it comes to decentralization?
Yeah, so they had the parachain model where you had to, you put aside DOT and then you got the token of the parachain, which at the peak, I think it went for more than 1 billion for one parachain, and it dropped completely. Now, Gavin is working on a new model called JAM, Joint Accumulation Machine, which basically gives block space to whatever when it's needed. So it's kind of should be seen as a supercomputer which can handle all those transactions without any centralization.
Okay, and the other thing that is very important, and we see currently a huge amount of companies launching stable coins. Like literally on a daily basis, I see projects with stable coins. I think this is related to some like the regulation that is coming from the US. They're like stable coins collateralized with all kinds of like different assets. But we obviously have the two big ones. We have the USDT, which potentially has some regulatory issues around it. But those are, I guess, being addressed in the United States. And we have USDC. But on Polkadot, like, do we have some natively issued stable coins?
You have USDC issued on Polkadot.
Oh, there is USDC there.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's like essential for the ecosystem.
No, absolutely. So stable coins will be definitely a backbone of the whole ecosystem, and it already happened, yeah.
And then the final question, I guess, before I give the word to anyone that has some questions.
Not too technical, please.
Yes, no, real world assets, because that's the other big real world assets. That, I mean, stable coins in a way are tokenized dollars, so like real world assets. But do you see a trend around real world assets, around like Polkadot?
Yeah, look, I mean, in the end, I think what we can all agree is that everything will be tokenized sooner or later. Yeah, so we definitely will see that, and it will happen. And Polkadot definitely provides the ability to do that. Yeah, when it will happen on a large scale, no one knows, but it definitely will happen. Everything, if it's real estate, I don't know, whatever asset it is, it will be tokenized, because this generation is like when I look at my son, he doesn't care about the bank or whatever. He has a wallet and says, okay, I want to buy for $100 some real estate. I want to buy for $100, I don't know, a shipping asset, whatever. And this is definitely the trend. I mean, look, BlackRock didn't go into the space because they thought they know that there's a lot of money to be made, yeah, and that the intermediaries, the banks, will be disintermediate over the long run, yeah. So that's the big question mark at the moment.
Actually, on that point, I'm recording like.
You already said last question. Just
yeah. Actually, I had a question about these, but just to continue my thought, I'm recording these 6 videos to promote Eat Sofia. And the first one was on the Pectora upgrade of Ethereum. But the second one that I want to do, and I'm almost ready with the script, is related to a report by Allium, who are an infrastructure provider in the digital space. In crypto, they cover like 70 plus blockchains. Visa uses them. Many different companies use, like big brands use them. And they created, like they did like a I forgot, a research. They asked like 500 professionals from the TradFi sphere, like what they think about decentralized finance, and the answers were very, very interesting. It's like a 50-page report. I'm gonna cover like some of the slides, but really what they said, like TLDR, is that they are looking into decentralized finance because of automation, because of disintermediation, like removal of intermediaries, And many of them believe that decentralized finance will be absolutely critical for financial services and products in the, most people believe from 5 to 10 years. I think the result was like maybe after 10 years, maybe they believe the technology is too young. But exactly what you're saying, like the whole financial infrastructure will eventually, I believe, will be on blockchain.
No. I mean, payment is definitely the next thing which will change dramatically. It's like, why should you pay, I don't know, 5% for a transaction from here to Africa, whatever?
Yeah,
if
that's...
you can, and I think that's, I mean, look at the margins Visa, MasterCard have. We're talking gigantic margins for what? It's a monopoly, and you know, usually that's where where the money is to be made. Yeah, if you're able to break the monopolies. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the reasons why we see so many stable coins is that everyone is going into payments. They are seen as a vehicle of payments, clearing, and settlement. And unlike traditional finance, they get cleared and settled in almost real time. But we discussed real-world assets. So I guess you've invested in Centrifuge, and they're very big.
I guess so too.
Okay. But do you know why? Like, why did you decide to do that?
No, I mean it's exactly so. The way we invest is basically we choose a topic which we're interested in, and that was real-world asset financing. Also because the chief investment officer Mark and myself have a background in banking, and we believe that the tokenization of assets will definitely be the future, and I think we're very close that it's happening. They already have a lot of value locked, so yeah, that's why we invested.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this year will be like the first year of a cycle of a lot of tokenization and a lot of entries from traditional finance into DeFi or into blockchain in general. Another very interesting conclusion of that report was that, interestingly, TradFi institutions are more interested in permissionless public blockchain infrastructure as opposed to permissioned, which hasn't been the case so far. Like we've seen so many proofs of concepts in the past by big brands, big names but they were all building their own chain. I think JP Morgan also are currently trying to push their blockchain, which I forgot what the name was, but they're still going in that direction, potentially for like inter-institutional settlements. But other names like BlackRock, you mentioned the Build Fund, it's tokenized on Ethereum. So hopefully on Polkadot there will be something like BlackRock maybe will, like direct some liquidity towards Polkadot as well. Okay, so I'll leave it to everyone to ask questions if you have some price-related questions.
Is Polkadot going to be added to the reserve of the US?
I mean, you can imagine how many messages I got is, oh, why is Gavin not in the White House? And I said, well, I don't know. And no,
Charles Hoskinson.
But it's look, the thing is what is happening in the US is maybe not super healthy for the whole market, yeah, because it looks like a big front running scheme. That if you pay, you get added, whatever that means. And look, I have no opinion on that, so I don't know. I don't have Trump's number, so
I have some. So there are definitely some negative, obviously, things coming from the US when it comes to crypto assets. The Trump coin, Melania coin. Not great for crypto. I think the best thing about those was that I think the Trump coin was really the peak of the meme coin cycle, and everything from there just went down. I think Trump just broke the meme coin cycle, which I think is good. Well, I mean, not so that many people got really liquidated by owning some meme coins, But I think this is like creative destruction, and we've been through that many different times. And once a cycle goes away that wasn't very productive, something more productive usually happens in its place. Liquidity moves from something less productive to something more productive, and then the whole, like, blockchain sphere or whatever industry goes forward. So I think this is a positive thing to say about what's happening there. The other positive thing is like regulations. And I think the whole thing, TradFi into crypto push that we are seeing, or maybe seeing the beginning of, will be or is possible because of the regulations. As soon as regulations related to stable coins and how to categorize different types of assets, crypto assets, are in place in the largest financial market in the world. I think from there we'll see a lot of like even more stable coins, tokenization, and so forth. So I think generally it's positive what's happening in the States. There's more clarity, especially if we compare it to what happened with the Democrats before that for 4 years. There was literally the opposite thing. So I think generally we are moving in the right direction.
We're all gonna make it.
Well, whoever survives, who doesn't get liquidated, wins in the end. Okay, so questions? Anyone has some questions? Yes. Just a sec.
How are the values on the decentralization chart derived?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
How are the values on the decentralization chart? It's on page 10, derived.
Nakamoto coefficient.
Yeah, that's how it's calculated. But I don't know the details. But that's from, I don't know what's behind it, but that's how it's measured.
Okay, we can read.
I think it's explained on the slide, but I've seen this. I think the Avalanche founder was promoting the Nakamoto coefficient in the past, and I'm not sure why Ethereum is not there, because I believe Ethereum also had a good Nakamoto coefficient, but yeah.
No, it's because how many entities need to collude to break the chain?
Yeah.
Who decided it was 149 for Polkadot? And how was it decided?
It was an independent analysis made by Polkadot by sources below.
That's how it's calculated.
Yeah, it says like Nakaflow IO, and it's from February, which is interesting, because I'll definitely have a look. Looks very interesting. And I wonder why Ethereum is not there. It's like 2 entities maybe or something can collude. Okay, any more questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know how reliable this source is, but currently Polkadot inflation is about 7%, right? It's above 7. So aren't you worried about that, because there's so many chains, and isn't it all about digital scarcity at the end? I mean,
No, absolutely. So that's definitely one of the issues is that, I mean, look, they are considering that the inflation will go down and also the staking rewards, but it needs to be voted. So you cannot, there's no one to say I change it, yeah. So it needs to be voted on that, but it already got voted that the inflation will be reduced over time, yeah. But you're absolutely right, yeah. I mean, the staking rewards are I think 18% right now, and that's definitely an issue, yeah.
okay, thank you.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. It was quite educational. My question is more related to something you said in the beginning, and that's more of the investment side of the company. You mentioned something along the lines of you invest in 5 out of 500 projects. Is that correct?
No, we so far for this new fund we did 5 investments, yeah. and we looked at 120 for doing these 5 investments. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess my question would be, what is the filters that you put when you make this decision about the investment? Is it more related to what utility the project have, market cap, FDV, or something else? Yeah, maybe it's interesting for us. Maybe we can share some
so
approach.
it's in the end, it's is it in an area which we are interested? Do we think that it makes sense? We did a lot of gaming because we think that gaming will be the first adoption, because also the users are more native to blockchain. Then the team plays a huge role. Who are the founders? Because usually in venture capital, you pivot, I don't know, 2-3 times until you find your product market fit. So you have to be with the right founders who can handle that. Yeah. And then what we are doing is also that what they say they can implement from a technical point of view, we check. So we even go as deep as checking what the code is and if the code makes sense. Yeah. So we have our own tech due diligence team for that.
Thank you for the presentation. I just want to ask that I'm a big holder of Polkadot, and I just want to know about the staking of Polkadot, how to choose the right validator if you want to earn some coins, or
Yeah, I mean,
is it a good idea to stake right now? I mean, how to choose your validator, because you need to...
with whom we are staking, you mean, or?
What?
With whom we are staking, you mean, or how to choose them?
About staking.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make sure that the validator you stake is someone reputable and that you're not getting slashed. Yeah. So, but we are. Sorry.
Who did you choose?
So we are very conservative. So we went with Bitcoin Swiss.
Bitcoin Swiss.
Yeah. So we are. So we're happy to give up some rewards to make sure that we don't run into problem. But it's a difference if you're in look, I mean, we're staking a lot of money. You know, we have 160 single investors, so it's quite a lot of number, and it's more an institutional setup. Would I stake privately with them? Why would I give up 4% or so? I probably wouldn't, yeah. But as a private individual, I probably would you know, use a different validator.
What type of problems can we encounter by validating our coins?
What do you mean? What?
Well, you said there may be some type of problems if you're with the wrong validator, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could get slashed, you know, if it's not working. But as I said, I mean, look, for us, we didn't.
Can you lose your coins?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we prefer not to.
Currently,
I don't know.
approximately
20? I don't know.
20.
No, I don't know. I really don't know.
Is that a decentralization?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
the actual nodes that are validating.
Yeah, I don't know the number.
Polkadot has 1,024 active validators.
Okay.
And many more inactive validators.
Yeah.
So basically, Polkadot has around 1,024 active validators and around 10,000 or something inactive validators, and then they get selected by, you know, nominating. What is it?
They change terms when there is an inactive validator.
Yeah, Polkadot works with nominated proof of stake. So you have nominators that nominate validators, and that's how 1,024 validators get selected. Yeah, I mean, I work for it, I love it. The governance is really impressive, honestly, a little bit chaotic, but I can recommend checking out the proposal system of Polkadot. You can, for example, make a proposal on the platform and ask for some money and develop something in return, you know? And they pay pretty well, so I can recommend that checking out if you're a developer. And what I also can recommend is if you want to get into Polkadot, there's a Polkadot Blockchain Academy. That's how I got into the ecosystem. And they educate really well, build your blockchain foundations up, and that's how you can find a job on Polkadot if you want to.
Thank you. All right. So I think maybe it's a good time to let Christoph rest a little bit. And a round of applause for Christoph. I have
One last question.
just, yeah, I was going to tell, направо ще мина на български вече. Thank you, Christoph. С Gavin Wood, защото имам една много интересна история, тъй като аз 2017 година започнах да работя за един проект, който се казва Eternity. И човекът, който го създаде, беше в този екип с Gavin Wood, с Чарлз Хоскисън. Той се нарича себе си кръстикът на Ethereum. The Godfather of Ethereum се нарича, Янисов Малахов се казва. И с Eternity имахме ICO, събрахме, не знам, няколко стотици хиляди, 120 хиляди етера, нещо такова тогава. Това става въпрос 2017 година, мисля, че беше. И какъв е най-добрият начин да бъдат дали защитени тези етери? Не могат да са просто в един портфел, дори в хардуерен портфел не могат да са. И тогава се появяваше тази идея за multi-signature. И това го имаше върху биткоин, обаче върху Ethereum го нямаше още. И Gavin Wood точно беше човек, който създаде, доколкото си спомням, първия multi-sig smart contract върху Ethereum. И всички проекти по това време, особено тези, които правиха ICO-та, използваха това multi-sig смарт контракт, за да може, нали, двама от трима да подпишат, за да се направи транзакция, или трима от петима, нещо такова. Но за съжаление, както в този случай, този умен договор имаше някакъв бъг и мисля, че на практика всички проекти, които използваха този multisig, бяха хакнати, обаче тук има голяма разлика, че примерно, кажем 120 проекта бяха хакнати, 117 бяха хакнати от white хакери, за да могат, нали, white хакерите да вземат всичко, което могат и после да го върнат. Обаче имаше едни 3 проекта, които бяха хакнати от нормални хакери, от лошия вид. И Eternity беше един от тези проекти. И мисля, че нещо от типа 70 хиляди етера изчезнаха по този начин. Нещо такова, не си спомняме, че бройките, има блогпостове по тази тема. И другото интересно беше, че тези 3 проекта, които в крайна сметка наистина бяха хакнати заради проблема с multi-signature смарт контракта, и всичките имаха Eternity знака в тях. Нали, този знака за безкрайност, нали, легналата осмица. И да, не съм поглеждал дали са още там в този wallet открадените етери. В момента са, разбира се, значително повече като сума в долари. Но да, една така интересна история. Нали, не му се сърдим на Gavin Wood, той е направил най-вероятно най-максимума, който е могъл, но за съжаление имаше просто там някакъв бъг и така се получиха нещата. И другото нещо, преди да ви оставя да нетворквате и да изкараме храната, което вече излиза, е пак да кажа за ETH Sofia, че се случи септември месец 23-25. Това е най-голямото криптотехнологично събитие в България. И това, което може би ще ви е най-важно на вас, остават сигурно 5 или 10 билета от Super Early Bird варианта, който е възможно най-евтиния вариант. След това от първи следващия месец цената става двойна. Така че ако имате намерение да ходите на Ethereum Sofia, сега е момента. Друго важно уточнение е, че фокуса няма да е само върху EVM екосистемата. Ще има най-вероятно и Solana, и ICP, и SUI със сигурност. Основните фокуси са, както може да се усетите, Real World Assets, Centralized Finance into DeFi, AI и DeFi, Web3 маркетинг и Scaling, разбира се. И мисля, че това бяха тези теми, които така нали, ще гледаме да намерим наистина стойностни лектори от възможно най-добрите блокчейн проекти в сферата. Така че, да, септември 23-25, то е конференция и хакатон. Ако познаете някой пък, който иска да говори, имаме speaker applications, които са в момента live. Отивате на ETH sofia.com и ще намерите цялата информация. Те първа започваме организацията, така че да, нали, сега е удобният момент. Най-ефтините билети са в момента, вече към края. Мисля, че стандартният билет беше на 200 евро. Сега са по 65. Така че, както прецените. Това е от мен. Надявам се да ви е било интересно. Следващото 93-то издание ще бъде много интересно. Поканили сме представители на български NFT проект с някаква такава история, която е буквално достойна за Netflix филм, с азиатски връзки, с дубайски връзки, с много интересна историята. Това ще е следващия месец, последния ден от месеца пада средата. Така че следващия месец, април, мисля, че 30, заповядайте отново за 93-то издание на София Crypto Meetup. Благодаря ви много. Храничка, пиване. Мерси.